The sterile glow of the monitor fractured the pre-dawn gloom of the server room, a stark contrast to the encroaching darkness of the world it represented. Outside, the city slept, oblivious to the silent war waged in encrypted channels and hidden IP addresses. Inside, beneath the hum of cooling fans and the faint scent of ozone, a digital phantom was about to be born. It was 2001, a year poised on the cusp of a new millennium, a time when the internet was still a wild, untamed frontier, a digital Wild West where laws were scarce and shadows offered easy sanctuary. This was the breeding ground for a nascent evil, a meticulously constructed network feeding on the most vulnerable, an invisible cancer spreading through the nascent global network. The agents, scattered across continents and disciplines, were mere specks of light against this vast, encroaching void. They operated in the periphery, gathering fragments of data, piecing together whispers from the abyss, their faces gaunt, their eyes burning with a weary resolve. The air itself seemed thick with the unspoken, the weight of the depravity they were slowly, painstakingly beginning to comprehend. This was not just a crime. It was a symptom of a deeper societal rot, a chilling testament to the human capacity for cruelty amplified by the very technology designed to connect us. The digital tendrils of this operation, nameless yet pervasive, had already ensnared countless unseen lives, leaving behind only silence and the digital echoes of profound suffering. The sheer scale of it, even in these early, fragmented stages, was staggering, a global conspiracy woven into the very fabric of the burgeoning digital age. The call had come in on a Tuesday, a sterile, unemotional transmission that nonetheless sent a tremor through the otherwise routine operations of the Bureau. An anonymous tip, a digital breadcrumb dropped by a source whose identity remained as shrouded as the data they possessed, pointed to something far more insidious than the typical online fraud or hacking scheme. It spoke of a network, a vast, interconnected system operating with chilling efficiency. Its purpose a whisper in the dark, child exploitation on a scale previously unimaginable. The initial contact was tentative, a cautious exchange between disparate law enforcement agencies across time zones and legal jurisdictions. A lone infiltrator, a digital ghost, had managed to slip past firewalls and encryption, not to steal secrets or disrupt systems, but to bear witness. This wasn't a sting operation. It was a descent into a digital hellscape. The agent's reports, delivered in encrypted bursts, painted a picture of a sophisticated, multinational organization, a hydra with heads rooted in server farms in St. Petersburg, offshore data havens, and clandestine forums where unspeakable acts were not only tolerated but systematically cataloged and disseminated. The early intel suggested a chilling level of organization, a business model built on the systematic abuse and commodification of children, a global enterprise operating with the anonymity afforded by the nascent internet's borderless nature. The implications were profound, a stark reminder that the dazzling promise of digital connection could also be a conduit for the darkest aspects of human behavior. The investigation was in its infancy, a nascent spark of light flickering against an overwhelming darkness, but the stakes were immeasurable, touching the very heart of innocence and the future of a generation. The first few weeks were a blur of late nights, lukewarm coffee, and the ceaseless glow of screens. The initial tip had been a single thread, and now a tangled, Gordian knot of data began to emerge. Forensic analysts worked around the clock, meticulously dissecting corrupted files, tracing IP addresses that dissolved into proxy servers, and attempting to make sense of encrypted communications that defied conventional decryption. Each recovered piece of data was a victory, a small fragment of the larger, horrifying picture. The sheer complexity of the operation was its shield. Servers were geographically dispersed, hidden behind layers of obfuscation, and the organization itself operated through a labyrinth of shell corporations and front businesses, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint a central command. The digital footprints were deliberately fragmented, designed to mislead and confuse, a testament to the perpetrators' understanding of emerging cyber forensics. This wasn't a street gang operating in the dark. This was a meticulously engineered criminal enterprise, leveraging the global reach and anonymity of the internet to their advantage. The agents involved found themselves navigating a world where physical boundaries meant little, and the concept of jurisdiction was constantly tested by the borderless nature of the digital realm. The investigation required a level of international cooperation that was, at the time, unprecedented, a delicate dance between national agencies with competing priorities and vastly different legal frameworks. The pressure was immense, not just from superiors demanding results, but from the silent, ever-present knowledge of the victims whose lives were being irrevocably damaged with every passing hour. This was a war fought not with bullets, but with keystrokes, and the enemy was everywhere and nowhere, a ghost in the machine. The investigation began to unravel a chillingly intricate web of digital infrastructure, each server farm an encrypted forum and node in a vast, decentralized network. This was not a single, monolithic organization, but a collection of disparate cells, each operating with a degree of autonomy, yet inextricably linked by the shared purpose and the underlying digital architecture. The challenge lay in identifying the true architects, the puppet masters orchestrating this symphony of exploitation from behind impenetrable layers of anonymity. The early breakthroughs involved painstaking digital forensics, piecing together fragments of metadata, reconstructing deleted files, and cross-referencing seemingly innocuous online interactions that, when viewed through the lens of the unfolding conspiracy, revealed a disturbing pattern of communication and collaboration. It became clear that the perpetrators were not merely opportunistic criminals, but sophisticated operators who understood the nuances of emerging internet technologies, leveraging them to create a system of production and distribution that was both resilient and remarkably difficult to dismantle. Furthermore, the sheer geographical dispersal of the operation presented a significant diplomatic and legal hurdle. Servers were traced to Russia, Eastern Europe, and even some obscure corners of Asia, necessitating collaboration with law enforcement agencies in over a dozen countries. This involved navigating a complex web of international treaties, extradition laws, and differing national priorities. The agents found themselves constantly engaged in high-stakes negotiations, building trust across cultural divides and legal systems to share intelligence and coordinate efforts. The process was arduous, fraught with delays and the ever-present risk of compromised information. The very nature of the internet, its ability to transcend physical borders, had become the primary obstacle, turning what would have been a localized investigation into a global manhunt requiring unprecedented levels of interagency cooperation. Building on this, however, a critical shift occurred as the focus moved from the purely technical aspects of the network to the human element driving it. Interrogations began to yield insights into the organizational structure, revealing a hierarchy of roles, from the creators and distributors of the illicit content to the facilitators of the online communities where it was traded. This led to the identification of individuals whose societal standing belied their involvement, professionals with seemingly legitimate careers who were simultaneously engaged in this abhorrent enterprise. The realization that the network extended into the upper echelons of society, encompassing individuals with influence and resources, introduced a new layer of complexity and danger to the investigation, raising the stakes considerably. The possibility of corruption and obstruction within legal systems began to loom larger, adding a pervasive sense of unease to the already tense atmosphere. Consequently, the investigation was forced to adapt, moving beyond purely digital pursuit to encompass traditional investigative techniques. Undercover operations became more frequent, placing operatives directly into potentially dangerous online environments to gather more granular intelligence and identify key players. Surveillance operations, both digital and physical, were intensified, tracking the movements and communications of suspected individuals. The blurring of lines between the online and offline worlds became increasingly apparent as digital interactions often translated into real-world meetings, financial transactions, and even the recruitment of new members. This fusion of virtual and physical investigation demanded a multifaceted approach, requiring specialists from various fields to work in close concert, each bringing their unique expertise to bear on different aspects of the sprawling criminal enterprise. The initial focus on pure technological pursuit had evolved into a comprehensive strategy, acknowledging the human dimension as the ultimate key to unlocking the full scope of the conspiracy. As the labyrinthine depths of the digital underworld yielded their secrets, a profound understanding began to coalesce, not through a mere summation of discovered facts, but through the emergent patterns and interconnections that now define the investigative landscape. The meticulously constructed anonymity, once an insurmountable barrier, now served as a testament to the sheer, cold ambition driving this enterprise. The vastness of the operation, once a source of overwhelming complexity, resolved into a chillingly coherent, albeit decentralized, ecosystem of illicit activity. The technological sophistication, initially a confounding enigma, was revealed not as an end in itself, but as a sophisticated tool employed with deliberate intent, a means to amplify and propagate darkness across invisible networks. The sheer geographical reach, once a bewildering challenge to jurisdiction and cooperation, now underscored the globalized nature of the threat and the imperative for unified action. Reflecting on this journey so far, one can perceive how disparate threads have begun to weave a singular, albeit disturbing, tapestry. The resilience of the network, tested at every turn, paradoxically highlighted the very vulnerabilities it sought to exploit, both in its digital architecture and in the societal fabric it preyed upon. The shadows that once concealed the perpetrators now seemed less like a void and more like a deliberately cultivated space, a fertile ground for exploitation nurtured by calculated ingenuity. It became evident that the pursuit of justice in this new digital age demanded not merely adherence to established protocols, but a fundamental reimagining of investigative paradigms, a willingness to adapt and evolve in lockstep with the ingenuity of those who sought to operate beyond the reach of conventional law. The echoes of unseen lives, once faint whispers, now resonated with a palpable urgency, underscoring the profound human cost underpinning the technological facade. In light of these insights, the path forward, leading towards the ultimate reckoning, becomes clearer. The culmination of effort, the painstaking accumulation of evidence, and the arduous forging of international alliances all converge towards a singular point of resolution. It is a convergence that speaks not only of the unraveling of a criminal conspiracy, but of a broader, more fundamental understanding of the evolving nature of crime in a modern era. The intricate dance between innovation and exploitation, between the promise of global connection and the peril of its misuse, now stands in stark relief. As we pivot towards the final reflection, it is this intricate interplay, this complex symbiosis of technology and transgression, that forms the bedrock upon which the final assessment will be built. The sheer scale of the endeavor, once a formidable obstacle, now serves as a powerful testament to what can be achieved when disparate forces unite against a common, insidious foe, and the enduring significance of vigilance in the face of ever-evolving threats. The final threads of Operation Blue Orchid, once a tangled skein of digital enigmas and international complexities, finally drew taut, revealing the chillingly mundane faces behind the mask of online anonymity. The servers, once formidable fortresses of depravity, now stood silent, their data meticulously cataloged, their illicit contents exposed to the stark light of public scrutiny. The arrests, spread across continents, had severed the arteries of a global network. But the true victory lay not just in the dismantling of the infrastructure, but in the reclamation of the silenced voices, the rescue of the innocent from the digital abyss. The operation had transcended its initial objective. It had become a crucible, forging new understandings of justice in the nascent digital age. The immense collaborative effort, The painstaking fusion of forensic expertise, diplomatic finesse, and unwavering dedication had illuminated a critical truth. The Internet, for all its liberating promise, remained a frontier fraught with peril, a domain where shadows could coalesce and fester with alarming speed. This realization was not a defeat, but a clarion call to vigilance. The ease with which this network had flourished underscored the perpetual need for adaptation, for the continuous evolution of investigative tools and legal frameworks to counter the ever-shifting tactics of those who sought to exploit the digital realm for nefarious purposes. The infrastructure of crime, much like the infrastructure of connectivity, was global, and thus, so too must be the mechanisms of its disruption. Blue Orchid's legacy was etched not merely in the annals of law enforcement history, but in the strengthened resolve to protect the vulnerable in a robust legal precedent set for international cybercrime cooperation and in the heightened awareness of the hidden costs of unchecked digital expansion. It served as a profound reminder that behind every IP address, every encrypted transmission, lies a human reality, and that the pursuit of justice, in its purest form, demands unwavering commitment to illuminating even the darkest corners of our interconnected world. The fight had not ended with the final arrest. It had merely entered a new, more informed phase where the lessons learned from this immense undertaking would guide future endeavors. The true practice begins now, not just for those on the front lines of law enforcement, but for every individual navigating the digital landscape, understanding that vigilance and ethical responsibility are the keystones of a safer, more just online existence. The echoes of Blue Orchid serve as a perpetual testament to the power of unified action and the enduring imperative to safeguard innocence in the ever-expanding territories of the digital frontier.